Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and due to popular request, we're going to be doing a video about the options I think you should get on a new Ram 1500. Now, this is just the regular truck, but we are going to be using my TRX as kind of like a backdrop for today's video. And if you guys are wondering why we're doing things this way, that is because Ram dealers have like no trucks in inventory, so like you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, we'll use this as a backdrop, but we're talking about like a regular 1500, not the TRX at all. We're just using this as kind of, again, backdrop. But anyways, let's get into the video. So first off, which trim package should you look into? And I'm going to kind of just rank the different trim packages in terms of what I really see them as from a value perspective. So I actually see the Rebel as the best value you can get with a Ram truck, and that's just because of the resale value. Resale value on off-road trucks is always very strong. So the Rebel is kind of like my #1 pick, and then just below that, the Limited would be my #2 pick, and then I guess Longhorn Limited kind of see them in the same light. Longhorn obviously is just kind of like the Western themed version of a Limited. It doesn't have as much standard equipment, but you know, pretty similar. And then down below that, I would put the Laramie and the Bighorn kind of in the same category. And here's what I have to say. Again, Rebel's gonna have the best resale value because it is an off-road package. And obviously, if you want a cool looking off-road truck, go for the Rebel. The Limited is gonna have the most luxury, and this is where the TRX comes into play. The Limited has like the luxury interior, so it's got full leather seats and everything. They look very similar to this. They just don't have like the Alcantara and the red accent and all of that. So if you want the nicest luxury interior, go for the Limited package. If you want all of the luxury features, but you don't really care about having the nicest interior, Laramie, that's going to give you your best value from that perspective. And then if you want the nicest like interior features, but you don't care about leather and you don't care about air-conditioned seats and LED lights and all that kind of stuff, Bighorn package is going to be the route to go for. And then, like I said, Longhorn, I pretty much see that as the same as the Limited. It's just the Western themed version. So again, just quick recap, Rebel's going to have the best resale value, and I think that's just the best value overall for everything you're getting with that truck. And then down below, Limited, Longhorn, those are going to be your hardcore luxury versions if you're looking for the ultimate luxury truck. And then Laramie is going to be your best value luxury truck. And then the Bighorn is going to be just like the best value for like a regular on-road truck that, you know, kind of feels luxury for its segment at least. Getting into individual options, first off, I recommend LED lights with any truck. So if you get a Laramie, a Rebel, a Longhorn, or a Limited, they're going to come standard with LED lights, so you're already covered. Bighorns do not, however, and so I recommend getting the LED light package on a Bighorn. Makes it look better aesthetically, but visibility is so much better, and it's just definitely worth it from a safety perspective. Now the next thing is the off-road packages you can get with the trucks. They add skid plates, off-road shocks, and then it also gives you more aggressive tires. I think that's worth it, especially if you live in a place that it snows, because the tires will give you a little bit better grip, and just all around it'll give you a better experience with driving. And it slightly helps out with resale because people see the inherent value with having that package, especially because of the shocks and the skid plates. So recommend the off-road package. Now the next thing I recommend is getting a package that has the sport hood. So I guess this kind of kicks out the Longhorn because you can't get that right now. The Rebel comes standard with the sport hood. You can get a package on the Laramie that gives you a sport hood, either the sport package or the night edition. The Limited, you can get the night edition that gives you the sport hood. The reason I recommend these packages is, first off, they add more than just the aesthetics. You know, obviously part of the package is making the vehicle look cooler because it'll give like a sport hood. It'll make, like on the night edition, it'll make the front grille blacked out. It'll make the bumpers body colored, and yeah, it'll just make the truck look a little bit cooler. But it also gives you some other equipment on top of that, so it's a really good value. But the biggest thing is, if you ever plan on selling the truck, it is so much easier to sell. There's not that many of those trucks out there that have that package, and so whenever they pop up on the used market, they pretty much just sell right away. I remember when I worked at the Ram dealer, we would get like regular Laramies in, and they would sit for quite some time in the used lot. But the second that we got a Ram with a sport package in that had a cool sport hood and all that, it would just instantly sell. Unless it was in a really weird color, then it might sit for a minute. So like if it was like bright blue or, you know, something like that, then, you know, it's kind of more of a niche market. But if you get like a sport in white, for example, just trust me, it'll sell like instantly. So I recommend sport package, night edition, those packages that add, again, the sport hood, and they add some equipment to the interior. I definitely think it's worth it from a resale perspective, and it makes the truck look so much cooler. So again, that kind of makes it worth it as well. Now, on the sidestep side of things, see what I did there? I recommend getting the off-road side steps, obviously, if you plan on taking it off-road. But if you're getting something like a Laramie or Limited obviously comes standard with power side steps, just kind of stick with that. But in terms of getting those steps, I recommend getting them from the factory because they're covered under the warranty. If you get them after the fact, they might not, well, they won't be covered under warranty, and depending on what the manufacturer's warranty is with those side steps, it may or may not be worth it. So I just recommend getting the factory side steps. The power ones are great for on-road use. They can get damaged pretty bad if you take the truck off-road, so get fixed steps if you're going to take the truck off-road, like these off-road side steps that the TRX comes with. And you can get these steps on like the Rebel and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's that. I don't want to spend too much time there. Now, on the tire and wheel setup side of things, here's what I recommend. You guys know I'm a little bit biased towards a particular type of setup. I recommend getting smaller wheels and bigger tires, and that's why I recommend the off-road package, because the off-road package for most of the trucks gives you 18-inch wheels and it gives you beefier tires. It helps out the ride quality so much. I absolutely hate 20-inch wheels, and then you can get like the 22s as well with the Limited. It looks kind of cool, but it just doesn't ride well. And I actually think that Limiteds with off-road tires look so much cooler, because I mean, think this has 35s. You could fit at least 33s on a Limited. You could maybe fit 35s. That would look incredible on an 18-inch wheel with a Limited. I think that, I mean, especially with like the Night Edition, think about that. Maybe I need to order that truck one day, a Limited Night Edition, and then throw some off-road tires on it. Definitely think that looks cool. And it helps out the ride quality so much. Like, this kind of setup rides great. 22s with like no tire doesn't ride great, and on top of that, you have a higher chance of puncturing a tire because it's just how things work. So yeah, that's that. Now the next thing is going to be this package right here. So it's the bed utility group. It gives you the bed step. It gives you the cargo sliders. It also gives you the LED bed lights in most of the packages, and then it gives you spray and bed liner. If you're going to use all that stuff, it's definitely worth it. But if you're going to take the truck off-road, don't think it's worth it, because this bed step just flies out all the time when you are off-road, especially if you jump your truck, which is not a lot of you, but just kind of mentioning that right there. But on top of that, you can get bed liners after the fact for pretty cheap nowadays, and if you're not going to use the cargo tie-down hooks or anything like that, it won't be worth it. But the package is a pretty good value, so if you're going to use all the stuff, definitely would say that it is worth it. And now the next package actually relates to the taillights, specifically on the Bighorn package. If you get a Bighorn with blind spot monitoring, it's actually kind of like a double deal. It gives you these cool LED lights, but then it also gives you blind spot monitoring. So I always think that that's worth it because, again, it's safety, so definitely worth it. Now, as for the parking sensors and all that, so with a lot of the trucks, it'll be standard equipment. Some of them it won't. I think the parking sensors are definitely worth it, again, from a safety perspective. And then I forgot to mention tow hooks. Just depends on what you're going to be doing. I mean, obviously, again, that's another kind of like safety thing if you ever need to get pulled out of something, or I guess we should call them recovery hooks. But I mean, if you're just buying this truck to drive around town, it's not necessarily worth it. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Anyways, continuing along with the interior, there's quite a bit of options you can add. The Harman Kardon sound system, I get questions about this all the time. Here's what I have to say. The Alpine sound system is great. The bass sounds great. The sound quality is great. The Harman Kardon, the bass sounds about the same, but there's so many more speakers, and the clarity as well with those extra speakers just sounds a little bit nicer. So if you're kind of like, I guess, a sound enthusiast, Harman Kardon is going to be the route to go with the truck. Just, again, the bass is about the same, but the clarity is just a little bit nicer. Now the next option, this kind of pertains more to like the higher end trucks, is should you get the heated, cooled seats in the back, all that kind of stuff. Again, this just depends. If you're not going to have rear passengers, it's obviously not going to be worth the money. But from a resale perspective, if you get a Limited and you don't get the level 1 equipment group that gives you all of these options back here, it kind of hurts the resale value. Not necessarily from like a money perspective, but from like a how long it's going to take you to sell the truck perspective. Because most people buying a Limited want this package, the level 1 equipment group. It gives you some more stuff as well. So if you're getting a higher end truck, I recommend just getting it, period, because people are going to want it. And then also with the reclining seats, again, that's another nice feature. I recommend doing that if you get a higher end truck, because people buying it are going to want that. But if you're getting something like a Bighorn, it's not as much of a necessity from a resale perspective. But I definitely think that the reclining function is worth it for rear passengers. It makes it a lot more comfortable in the back. And so, yeah. Then the next thing is the little like cargo divider things right here. And don't you think it's funny that I have a Bronco hat in a TRX? I guess that I'm kind of a little bit confused and mixed. But anyways, this little thing right here, I think it's great. I use it obviously because, well, I've got this stuff back here and under the other seat as well. So I think that is worth it to have the compartments and all that stuff. And heading over to the front, I guess, so we can talk about more stuff. Now, the next thing is going to be the safety packages. And here's what I have to say. If you do not do any highway driving, most of this stuff is not necessarily worth it. The blind spot monitoring, I think, is always worth it no matter where you drive. If you do a lot of highway driving, the adaptive cruise control system, I definitely recommend getting it. The lane keep assist, I always keep off because it's annoying. It just ping-pongs the truck between the lanes. So that is kind of annoying, but it comes with the other packages when you get the safety text, so you kind of just get it anyways, just turn it off. But yeah, if you do a lot of highway driving, the adaptive cruise control is definitely worth it. It makes your quality of life so much better. So I definitely recommend getting that package. And then again, blind spot monitoring no matter where you live. Now, should you get the center console or the bench seat? And I think this just obviously depends on preference. If you're not going to use the bench seat, like, you have to be realistic with yourself. Are you actually going to use the bench seat? If you're not going to use the bench seat, don't get it. The center console is just so much better. Now, the thing that sucks about the TRX is, well, it's got this cool shifter, but then you can't do the sliding backwards and forwards. That's definitely a cool part of the center console, and it's just the storage and all that kind of stuff is great. So definitely think it's worth it. Now, trailer brakes, again, that just depends on if you tow or not. What I would say is it's a pretty inexpensive option, and it'll help out with selling the truck down the road if you do plan on selling it, because most people buy trucks to do truck stuff, and if you have a truck that doesn't have trailer brakes, well, you know, it might weed out some buyers, but you can add these after the fact. So, I mean, it kind of is what it is. I would just get it because it's not too expensive. The trailer steering system, that's one that definitely is optional. I probably wouldn't recommend getting it. I got it because I was told to, but I don't necessarily think this is going to help or hurt resale value. But I don't think you can add that after the fact, so I guess take that into account. Now, should you get the 12-inch display or should you get the 8.4-inch? And if you guys were following me in the past, you know that I loved the 8.4-inch because I had that in my Rebel, and I said that that's the screen to get. I have completely changed my mind after living with the screen. So just playing with the screen a little bit, I was like, yeah, I didn't really like it. But actually living with the 12-inch screen now, it's so much better than the 8.4-inch. It looks better. It's easier to use because of just how much stuff is thrown in here. And the whole setup, I absolutely love it. So I recommend getting the screen, especially if you're going to get a higher-end package, a Laramie, a Limited, or a Rebel. You get the Rebel 12 package that gives you like the nicer seats and the screen, so it's kind of like a double whammy there. If you're getting like a Bighorn or something, not so much. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I definitely think the screen has been worth it from an option perspective. And then the next thing is going to be the panoramic sunroof. This is one that I would just leave up to you. I get it every single time because I think I'm going to use it, and then I end up not using it all that much. And so, yeah, kind of a funny situation. And I actually have to turn on my truck to show you guys the last thing. Now, the last option is new. It's the camera mirror. Should you get this or should you not? I definitely recommend it because especially if you have kids, right? They could be doing a bunch of stuff in the back, being annoying, being in the way. And obviously, you know, visibility is pretty good, but it's not perfect. This helps out. And then also, you know, if you have stuff in the bed as well, as long as it's not in the way of the camera, then it helps out with visibility. It improves it. So I definitely think that the camera mirror is worth it from an option perspective. And we're gonna shut that back off because it is extremely loud. And then the last thing that I guess I'll get into is going to be that new GT package. I definitely think that package is worth it if you're getting a Rebel or a Laramie. The reason being is a lot of the options that package has is stuff that you guys are probably already going to add after the fact if you do modify your truck. But because it's a package from Ram, resale value is going to be better. So like if you put those modifications on a truck and you went to sell it, those modifications wouldn't be worth any extra resale value. But because it's the GT package from Ram, it'll help out the resale value. So I recommend if you're gonna add an exhaust or any of the stuff that the GT package has, just get the GT package. Even if, you know, the combined retail's a little bit more than what it would cost to do that yourself, I think it's worth it because again, it helps out with the resale value. But yeah, I mean, that is pretty much the options I get and wouldn't get. Oh, I guess there's one last thing. I almost forgot to mention. This video is getting too long. So the last thing has to do with towing actually. What rear end should you get with the truck? I get asked this all the time. If you're gonna only do highway driving, it's okay to get the 321s, but the gas mileage difference between 321s and the 392 is not a massive amount with the trucks. And so I would just recommend getting the 392. I always tried to get customers to order the trucks with the 392 because it just makes the acceleration feel a little bit better. Yes, the RPMs are a little bit higher on the highway, but again, the fuel economy difference is pretty much negligible. So get the 392s because you'll get a higher towing capacity, which will actually help out the resale value. That was a huge thing with reselling trucks is I would get these trucks traded in that would have 321s and people wouldn't want to buy it because it had 321s. So yeah, 392. And then also, speaking on that, we have to talk about the engine. This is like the end of the, I'm such a bad person. This is the end of the video and we're talking about engines. Should you get the V6, the Hemi eTorque, or the EcoDiesel? What I have to say from an engine perspective is I would recommend to kind of stray away from the V6. It's okay, but it's kind of just super sluggish, not all that great. The regular Hemi or the eTorque Hemi, those are the preferred engines. Now, I had an eTorque Rebel, and I didn't really get that much of a fuel economy difference from having an eTorque system, because I had a 2018 Rebel before that had the regular Hemi. So regular Hemi's fine. The eTorque, it's fine too, but just understand that that's more technology, more stuff to break. So just get the regular Hemi if you can. If you can't, eTorque is fine. Don't stress it too much. Now, as for the EcoDiesel, that engine is great if you're not going to tow. If you're going to tow, don't get the EcoDiesel. If you just want like kind of like a runaround truck, EcoDiesel is great. So it just depends on what you're looking for from an engine perspective. So I guess 5.7 Hemi with a 392 rear end. That is the truck to get from an engine perspective and a rear end perspective. Now, hopefully that helped you guys out if you are looking to buy or order a Ram 1500. And I can obviously make more videos about this more in depth. There's so much stuff to go over, but I try to condense it into one video as much as I possibly can. But anyways, if you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video.